In the deepest parts of the world's coldest lakes, the laws of biology seem to lose their grip. There is a specific temperature, just above freezing, where the natural process of decay simply ceases to function. You are looking into a liquid tomb where time has no meaning. At these depths, the immense weight of the water column prevents gases from expanding within a body that has met a tragic end. Instead of rising to the surface, the form remains anchored in the silt, standing upright in the dark. It is a silent sentinel waiting in the crushing weight. You might expect to find a skeleton after 80 years beneath the waves, but the cold has a different plan. Through a rare chemical reaction called saponification, the body's fats transform into a hard, soap-like wax known as adipocere. The person becomes a permanent statue, preserved in a state of eternal stillness. In 1940, a group of fishermen on Lake Crescent looked down into the crystalline blue and saw something that should not have been there. It was a woman, floating just beneath the surface, perfectly intact despite having vanished years prior. They called her the Lady of the Lake. Her skin was as white as ivory, and her features were so distinct it seemed as though she had only just closed her eyes to rest. But when the authorities reached out to touch her, they realized she was as hard as stone. The water had turned her into a monument of her own passing. You must understand that the lake does not like to give up what it has claimed. In these environments, the oxygen is so low that even the bacteria responsible for breakdown cannot survive. The silence is absolute. There is no sound here, only the rhythmic pressure of the abyss. Imagine you are a diver, moving through the freezing shadows with only a narrow beam of light to guide you. The silt hangs in the water like dust in an abandoned mansion. You see a hand reaching out from the darkness, fingers spread as if waiting for a grip. It does not look like bone. It looks like porcelain. You realize that beneath the layers of cold, thousands of people who were lost to the sea are still there, exactly as they were the moment they left the world of the living. They are a hidden population of the deep. The ocean is not a graveyard of ruins, but a library of perfectly preserved moments. Every tragic ending is kept in a cold, pressurized vault, protected from the sun and the wind. You are walking through a gallery of those who were forgotten by the land, but remembered by the water. There is a psychological weight to this reality that is hard to ignore. We often think of the departed as fading away, returning to the earth as dust. But in the deep, they remain. They are persistent. They refuse to dissolve into the background of the natural world. When you look at the rain hitting the surface of a dark pond, you are seeing the roof of a world that keeps its secrets locked in ice. The hand that refused to drown is a reminder that the past is never truly gone. It is simply waiting in the dark, held in a waxy embrace. As you descend further into the history of these anomalies, you begin to see the patterns. The water doesn't just take life, it archives it. It creates a dark mirror of our world, populated by those who were meant to vanish but were instead chosen for preservation. You can feel the isolation of the depths even from the shore. The cold, the pressure, and the terrifying permanence of the waxy figures below. They are the ocean's dark memory, standing in the silt, waiting for a light that will never reach them. Deep below the initial layer of discovery, the pressure begins to shift from a physical weight to a psychological one. As you descend further into the sunless reaches, the biology of the deep becomes even more alien. In this pressurized vault, the boundary between the past and the present starts to blur until it disappears entirely. You are no longer just looking at a person. You are looking at a moment that refused to end. The preservation of the form is only one part of the archive. Around these silent figures, the artifacts of their lives remain equally untouched. A leather satchel, a silver locket, or a simple wool coat remains exactly as it was when it first felt the chill of the currents. The fibers do not fray, and the metal does not tarnish in the oxygen-starved void. It is a world where the concept of the old has no meaning, because everything is kept in a state of perpetual now. When you drift past these monuments, you might feel a sense of being observed. It is a trick of the mind, born from the stillness. Their eyes, often clouded by the unique chemistry of the depths, seem to track your movement through the silt. They are not watching you with intent, but rather, they represent a collective memory that is impossible to ignore. They are the witnesses of a realm where the sun is a myth and the wind is a distant memory. The deeper you go, the more the water feels like a solid substance. It is a thick, viscous medium that holds everything in place like a fly in amber. At the bottom of these glacial trenches, there is no current to disturb the peace. A person could stand upright in the silt for a century, their posture as straight as the day they arrived. They become part of the geography, a living topography of those who were set aside by time. Consider the sound, or the lack thereof. In the world above, noise is constant, a reminder of the frantic pace of life. But here, the only sound is the rhythmic thrum of your own pulse, amplified by the crushing silence. This absolute quiet creates a sanctuary for the departed. They are protected from the chaos of the surface, held in a tranquility that is as terrifying as it is beautiful. The chemistry of the abyss acts as a master sculptor. While we are accustomed to the idea of the earth reclaiming its own, the water chooses to hold on. It creates a dark mirror of our society, populated by people who were meant to be forgotten but were instead granted a strange sort of immortality. This isn't a place of endings, but a place of suspended animation. Through waxy embrace, he is a shield against the inevitable march of the seasons. To look into these depths is to look into a mirror of our own fragility. We see ourselves in the porcelain skin and the reaching hands. The ocean doesn't just store these forms, it curates them. It builds a gallery of human history that remains hidden beneath the waves, accessible only to those brave enough to face the cold. It is a library where every book is a life, and every page is a memory held in stasis. As you finally begin your ascent, leaving the silt and the silent sentinels behind, the transition back to the light feels jarring. The warmth of the sun and the movement of the air seem fragile compared to the permanence of the abyss. You realize that the water is a guardian, a keeper of secrets that were never meant to be told. The hand in the dark remains, reaching out for a grip that will never come, perfectly preserved in the heart of the world. Would you like a summary of the next segment of this exploration into the deep archives? Beyond the trenches of the known world lies a stratum where the pressure ceases to be a weight and becomes a sculptor of the mind. At this depth, the water is no longer a liquid. It is a dense, crystalline cathedral. You are entering the Great Annex, a place where the archive expands from individual stories into sprawling, unintended societies. Here, the silt has been packed by the eons into a floor as smooth as polished obsidian, reflecting the silent residents back to themselves in a dark, distorted symmetry. In this lower hall, the figures are no longer isolated. They are clustered in groups, mimicking the social architectures of the surface. You might find a circle of figures standing as if in mid-conversation, their hands raised in gestures of frozen emphasis. There is no decay to soften their expressions, only the relentless smoothing of the currents that have passed over them for centuries. Their faces have become masks of translucent alabaster, caught in expressions of surprise, contemplation, or a quiet, terrifying peace. You find yourself wondering if they are speaking to one another in a frequency that requires 100 years to utter a single syllable. The light here is not a product of the sun, which died miles above, but a chemical ghost. Bioluminescent organisms, thin as threads and pale as frost, weave through the fingers of the preserved and drape across their shoulders like living lace. These are weavers that do not consume, they decorate. They illuminate the archive in pulses of cold, rhythmic blue, turning the abyss into a flickering gallery of the lost. When the light hits a brass button or a glass eye, the reflection is so sharp it feels like a physical sting. It is a reminder that in this place, even the smallest detail is kept under a microscopic, unblinking surveillance. As you navigate this garden of porcelain people, the psychological gravity begins to pull at your own sense of self. In the world of the light, we are defined by movement and change. Here, those concepts are heresies. You start to feel the urge to match their stillness, to see if you too could become a monument. The water seems to whisper a promise of perfection, that if you simply stop struggling, it will take your fleeting, messy life and refine it into something eternal. The archive is always looking for new acquisitions, and the vacuum of the deep has a way of making the void feel like a home. Notice the way their clothing has transformed. The wool and silk, saturated by mineral-rich brine, have stiffened into something resembling armor. A lace collar becomes a fretwork of stone. A velvet ribbon becomes a strip of dark metal. This is the ultimate stage of the curation, the blurring of the organic and the mineral. They are no longer merely people who fell. They are the bedrock of a new geography. They are the pillars upon which the silence of the world rests. To touch one would be like touching a mountain, cold and indifferent to the passage of empires. There is a specific chamber at the very core of this descent, a place where the water is so still it feels like a solid block of glass. In the center stands a figure whose identity has been entirely reclaimed by the deep. They are covered in a fine, shimmering dusting of silicate, looking like a statue carved from a single diamond. This is the index. It is said that if you look long enough into the clouded pupils of this central sentinel, you can see the entire history of the archive, every face, every locket, and every secret ever surrendered to the tide. But the most unsettling realization comes when you look at your own hands against the backdrop of this eternal stasis. In the blue-black gloom, your skin looks frantic, your pulse looks violent. You are the anomaly in this whole of perfection. The deep does not hate you, it simply waits for you to lose your momentum. It knows that gravity and time are on its side. Every bubble of air you exhale is a frantic plea for a world that no longer seems real. Down here, the only truth is the waxy grip of the current and the long, slow gaze of those who have already learned how to stay forever. Beyond the index, the floor dissolves into the final, silent chamber, the vestibule of the breathless. Here, the water is so heavy it feels like warm lead, pressing against your skin with the intimacy of a lover's embrace. In this ultimate sanctuary, the figures are no longer made of flesh or even mineral. They are outlines of pure, solidified intention. You realize now that the archive is not a graveyard for those who have been lost. It is a blueprint for those who are yet to arrive. The great annex was merely the waiting room. This is the destination. Walk further, and you find the most terrifying piece of evidence of all. It is a gallery of empty pedestals, each one carved from the same obsidian as the floor, yet each one bearing a unique, polished inscription. These are not names from the manifests of sunken ships or the scrolls of a forgotten war. They are names of those currently breathing air miles above. You see the names of world leaders, of children playing in distant parks, and of people you saw on the street only days ago. Each pedestal is a reserved space, waiting for a specific weight to occupy it. And there, in the center of a clearing of bioluminescent frost, is a pedestal that is not empty. On it sits a small, brass-bound ledger, its pages made of a material that defies the rot of the salt. As you turn the pages, you see your own history written in the past tense. Every choice you thought you made, every path you thought you forged, is recorded here as a series of inevitable steps leading to this very moment. The final page contains a detailed description of your current heartbeat, slowing to match the rhythm of the deep. The realization settles over you like a shroud. The deep did not find you. It summoned you. You were never an explorer. You were a returning citizen. The pressure is no longer your enemy. It is the only thing holding you together. You look up, and the miles of water above no longer feel like a barrier, but like a lid. The surface world, with its noise, its heat, and its frantic, fading light, was the true abyss. This, the cold and the silence, is the only place where nothing is ever truly lost. As you feel the first crystalline thread of a weaver begin to wind around your wrist, you finally understand the peace of the archive. It is the peace of knowing that the struggle is over, and the masterpiece is finally complete. The ocean is not a tomb. It is a mirror that waited 1 billion years for you to finally look into it. What dark anomaly should we explore next? Tell me in the comments. And if you seek more truths hidden in the dark, subscribe.